Before I get into today's video, remember to follow me on Twitter. So my Twitter, the link is in the description below. You can also find me. My handle is @JacksonKruger. Come over, say hi, and anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. Hello and welcome back to another edition of Will It Moneyball. And the way that this works, if you're new to this channel, haven't seen this kind of thing before, what I do is I have a question. Today's topic is how much does the preseason matter for a rookie quarterback? If a rookie quarterback has a great preseason, does that mean they'll go on to have a great career or even a great rookie season? Basically what I do is I have that question, and then I try to figure out if I can use data and analytics to solve this question. Now, one issue is it's hard to quantify what counts as a good preseason, what counts as a bad preseason, but I have something that I figured would be the best way we could use this, which is Pro Football Focus's grades. Now, I know a lot of people do not like Pro Football Focus, but I personally do like them. I think they're pretty good, and I would also just say that even if you're not a fan of them, it's something we can go off of. It's not just arbitrary. It's a definitive thing we can say about their opinions. Unfortunately, their preseason grades only go back a few years, so it's not like we have forever. I believe it started in 2014. They started doing this, so we have a bit of a small sample size, and that does kind of run into a little bit of snafus here, so that's an issue. But yeah, let's get into the data here. And what I did was I calculated what was your grade during the preseason of your rookie season. Then I said, what would your grade be for your first season? And finally, what I wanted to check out was just how good were you as a player over your career. That one a bit more arbitrary. There's no definitive way to say who was good and who wasn't. So I decided to go with just my own opinion. So 1 through 4 is the rankings. A 1 is a player who is just a bust. 2 is someone who I considered some value. Think like a Mitchell Trubisky, a solid player, but not a starting caliber player probably. Number 3 would be a good player. And then number 4, a great player. So again, it is arbitrary. We can debate over, is this a 3 or is it a 4? But I had to draw the line somewhere, and I want to figure it out somehow. So that's what I decided to go with. And so then I just entered in the data. So let's look at this chart right here. Just so you know what you're looking at, the column all the way on the left, that's where they ranked in terms of their Pro Football Focus grade in the preseason. Then you go over, that's where what their grade averaged to be in their first season or in their rookie season. The next column is what their total number was in terms of their career. So again, a perfect 4 would be everyone was great. A 1 would be everyone ended up being horrible. And all the way at the right, that's just how many players are in each of these columns. It's a small sample size. So that's why I wanted to include that. Because as you see, there's not a ton of takeaways. I mean, if we look at the rookie season, it appears as though guys who had bad preseasons would have bad rookie seasons, and guys who had good preseasons would have good rookie seasons. Although the career is a little bit different. While the highest was 80 plus, you look everywhere else, there doesn't seem to be any real correlations. So it might be maybe a tool that we can use for your rookie season. At least from this chart, there's nothing definitive to say that it does impact how you'll be as a career, but it's a small sample size, and that's what makes it a little tricky. So this was just the first round selection. The reason why it's such a small sample size is these were just the first round picks from the data that we could collect. I also decided to check second and third round picks just because that would give us a little bit more data because we are dealing with such a small sample size. As you see, we get a little bit more data, and this is just completely all over the place, right? I have no clue what to make of this because you look at this and there seemingly is no correlation whatsoever from second and third round picks. And again, part of it is we're dealing with small sample sizes, so that's an issue. You know, you see that someone who maybe had a bad preseason would actually go on to have a better rookie season than they would if they had a better preseason. Now, an argument could be made that maybe if you had a better preseason, you would get more starts when you probably didn't deserve it. So maybe that's a factor. I don't know. Although the second and third round picks who did have good preseasons actually would go on to have good careers. Again, in both of these categories, the best category, because no one had plus 80 in this group, but the best category that people had ended up being the best for the career. So that is interesting to me. But honestly, all this data, nothing's conclusive to me. I think, my theory going into this was that preseason matters some. It's not the end-all, be-all, but there are little nuggets you can take away from it. So just evaluating how good someone is in preseason might not even be the best way to evaluate it. Personally, I tend to look for what are some question marks I had about a player in terms of how they'll adjust to NFL talent, and that's kind of the way I view it. So even if someone had a bad grade, I might actually be higher on them. And if someone had a great grade, I might actually be lower than them. So that's another factor here. But what's interesting is that, really, you can find an example of anything happening. You want to find guys who had bad preseasons and then flamed out. Johnny Manziel and Josh Rosen. Bad preseasons, bad first seasons, bad careers. But then you have guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jared Goff, who Allen and Jackson both had better preseasons than both Manziel and Rosen. Goff did not. But all three of these guys are interesting because they would have bad rookie seasons as well, but would grow into good players. So there's that. If you're looking for that, that's kind of my theory, is it might be a better indicator of how you'll play your rookie season than your career as a whole, which does make some sense. But you also have guys like Deshaun Watson, who he's kind of he's the main outlier. He's the only guy I've seen like this who had a bad preseason and then lit it up in the regular season. Even the regular season, he wasn't as good as I think people remember, but he was still good as a rookie. Pro Football Focus, a 68.9 grade. That's pretty good. Although I would say if you're looking for something to take away, that's probably the main takeaway, is that literally only Deshaun Watson had a bad preseason and then a good rookie season. And even his good rookie season, he threw a lot of touchdowns, but if you look at the advanced numbers, he had things he had to clean up before he really took that next level. And then again, all the weird off the field stuff, but that's a conversation for another day. We're just focused on, you can't predict that with the preseason. There's no correlation to figure out that kind of stuff. You then have guys like EJ Manuel, Blake Bortles, and Sam Darnold, who had good preseasons, but would not go on to do too much. Darnold, I guess there's still a chance. He is still starting, so that's not awful. But those are the only real guys who had good preseasons and then immediately stunk in the regular season and stunk just for the rest of their career. You do have some guys, though. This is where things get a little interesting. Guys like Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, and Jimmy G, these were the best. They were just the best guys, them and Derek Carr, who had, best second and third round picks in the preseason. And they're all they've overperformed their draft value, right? Jacoby Brissett, maybe the worst of the bunch, but he's still a good backup. Teddy Bridgewater is a good backup fringe starter. Jimmy G, I think, is just a legit starter. He might not be a top 20 starter, but he's fringe top 20, I would say. Derek Carr is great. He was a second-round pick, and he had the best preseason out of any of the second and third round picks we mentioned, and he was the best player out of any of the second and third round picks we mentioned. So again, there appears to be some correlation, although what's interesting is Derek Carr did not have a great rookie season. Jimmy G and Jacoby Brissett, not a great rookie season, although they did sort of, eventually become good. Teddy Bridgewater ended up having a good rookie season, so, but still, that's interesting. And so maybe with these late round picks, it actually might matter more. You can see stuff with the preseason that it's a little bit more difficult with a first round pick, which could make some sense because some of these guys know they're the starter and are kind of, not trying to fight for a starting job. So that could be a factor for sure. The two best preseasons were by Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was incredible in his preseason, and his overall grade, his rookie season, wasn't fantastic, but it was just one game, and it was still good. And then, of course, he lit the world on fire in his first full season, so that's worth noting. He had a 91.8. The next highest was Mayfield with an 81.4. So that goes to show how great. He hit the ground running. So, okay, if someone is ridiculous, then maybe you look at it and say, hey, he could be ridiculous in the NFL. By the way, I believe Mac Jones has a similar grade, so maybe that's room for excitement if you're a Patriots fan. Mayfield also had a very good grade, 81.4, and then had a better rookie season with 83.2, and has had a very good career. I put him into 3 category, which is good. So that's where I have him. Another interesting thing, one last interesting thing, as I kind of mentioned, the second and third round picks, basically all of these guys, other than the couple I mentioned, had bad preseasons and bad careers. That's pretty much how it worked. I mean, Mike Glennon ended up being okay. Mason Rudolph, there's still some, jury's not out on him yet. He's at least has some value. But really, the only guys that had PFF grade over 60 were Deshaun Kaiser, who, again, flamed out immediately, bad rookie season, bad career, and Paxton Lynch, 76.1. He's the only, respectable grade, really. There's a big difference between 62 and 67, and he flamed out. Other than that, though, everyone had a sub 55 grade and then flamed out. So maybe that's the one thing you can learn, is if you have someone who you're not wild about at the beginning, and then they have a bad preseason, maybe you can just pull the plug, unless you feel like there is some sort of outlier, because again, we are dealing with small sample sizes here. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. So to answer the question, will it Moneyball? I would probably say yes, but not yet. We need more data. This is too small sample size to feel confident about anything. From what I've seen, it does seem like there's probably some logic behind. If you have a good preseason, you'll probably have a good rookie season, and especially if you have a bad preseason, there's a good chance you could have a bad rookie season. That seems to be more clear, but it's not a given. It's certainly not guaranteed, but there does seem to be a little bit of something there. In terms of career, though, I haven't seen any correlation. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen that yet. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on this stuff? Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.